This is not another video that just tells you, stop translating in your head. This is for anyone who feels that terrible frustration. You study and study, but in a real work meeting, you freeze. It feels like your mind is shackled, trapped by a pressure static that stops you from speaking what you truly know. But today, I will give you the key. I will teach you the strategic fusion method to finally unlock your English thinking. This will give you the confidence to be independent in your travels and meetings, becoming the capable global person you want to be. Watch until the end. I will give you a practical task and create a learning loop for our next video to help you turn what you learned today into a real automatic habit. Before we dive into the method, I need you to understand that I see you. I see you sitting there, maybe late at night, with flashcards and grammar apps open. You're doing everything you're supposed to do. You know hundreds, maybe thousands of words. You can probably pass a written test with a good grade. But there is a gap, a huge, terrifying gap, between the English in your head and the English that comes out of your mouth. That gap is the intermediate plateau. It's not a place of rest, it's a battlefield. And on that battlefield, your biggest enemy isn't the grammar. It's not the vocabulary. It's the constant, silent translation happening in your mind. It's a habit that was taught to us in school, a crutch we used to learn. But now it has become a chain that keeps you shackled. I know this because I wore those same chains. And I want to tell you about the day one of those chains broke. Not in a good way, but in a way that humiliated me and forced me to change everything. It was a few years ago. I was working for a company with global clients. I had spent 6 years studying English. I felt, okay, not great, but okay. I thought I was ready. Then came the meeting. It was a video call with the entire international team and a major client from New York. My boss was there. My boss's boss was there. The pressure was immense. For the first 20 minutes, I was silent. I just listened, nodded, and tried to look intelligent. My heart was pounding in my chest. I was repeating phrases in my head, preparing for a moment that might never come. And then it came. My boss, in front of everyone, turned his attention to me and said, "And what are your thoughts on the Q3 projections? You've analyzed the data." Time stopped. It felt like 20 faces on the screen were staring directly into my soul. And my mind went into absolute chaos. The pressure static was deafening. I had the answer in my native language. It was a brilliant answer, full of details and good ideas. But I couldn't build the bridge to English. My brain started grabbing for words, one by one. Became, I think that we can. It was slow, clumsy. I could feel the energy draining from the virtual room. While I was searching for the perfect grammar, the perfect vocabulary, the moment was dying. The silence felt like an eternity. I finally managed to say something incredibly simple, something a beginner would say. I agree. The projections are good. Good. That was all I could say. The brilliant analysis in my head was reduced to one pathetic, empty word. I saw my boss give a tiny, almost imperceptible nod, and then immediately move on to someone else. In that moment, I had never felt so small. I felt like a fraud. All those years of study, for what? To be invisible? To be a ghost in the most important meeting of my career? After the call ended, I just sat there, staring at the blank screen. I wasn't just disappointed, I was angry. I was angry at the traditional methods that taught me to memorize lists, but not to communicate. They taught me to build a library of words in my head, but never gave me the key to the door. They taught me to translate, and in doing so, they shackled my mind. That was my breaking point. I made a decision. I would never, ever feel that way again. I would not learn one more grammar rule, or memorize one more vocabulary list until I figured out how to break the chains of translation. I became obsessed. I didn't just want to learn English. I wanted to understand how the brain could think in a new language. I started a journey, not as a student, but as a detective, looking for the key to unlock the mind. And what I found, well, that's why we're here today. What I discovered was not a magic trick or a secret grammar hack. It was a fundamental shift in approach. It was a philosophy, an approach I now call strategic fusion. It's called fusion because it merges two critical ideas: how your brain naturally learns and how you build practical, real-world confidence. It's the key I was looking for, and today, I'm giving it to you. This philosophy is built on three core pillars. These aren't steps you follow one time. They are habits you build over time. They are the daily practices that will slowly, but surely, dissolve the chains of translation and quiet the pressure static in your head forever. The first pillar is immersion with intention. Now, everyone tells you to immerse yourself. They say, watch movies in English, listen to music. This is good advice, but it's incomplete. Passive listening is not enough. You can watch 100 hours of a series and learn almost nothing if you're not doing it with intention. Immersion with intention means you are not just a consumer. You are a detective. You are actively hunting for the building blocks of the language. You stop seeing words as individual units and start seeing them as chunks or phrases that native speakers use naturally. You're not just listening to what they say, but how they say it. Let me tell you a story about a student of mine. Let's call her Maria. Maria loved watching American TV shows. For a year, she watched them with subtitles in her own language, thinking she was immersing herself. Her listening skills got a little better, but her speaking didn't change at all. She was still translating, still freezing in conversations. Then she applied immersion with intention. She chose one show she loved. Instead of watching a whole episode, she focused on a single 5-minute scene. First, she watched it to understand the story. Then, she watched it again, this time with English subtitles, and her only goal was to find one phrase, just one, that she thought was interesting. In one scene, a character, instead of saying, "I understand," said, "Okay, I'm on the same page." Maria wrote that entire phrase down. I'm on the same page. She didn't translate it word for word. She memorized the entire chunk. She said it out loud 10 times. The next day, in a work email, instead of writing, "I agree," she wrote, "Thanks, we are on the same page." It was a small victory, but it was a profound shift. She was no longer building sentences word by word. She was using a complete, natural block of English that she had hunted and captured herself. So, here is your first practical task. Tonight, I want you to do the same. Choose one single 5-minute scene from any English movie or series you like. Watch it a couple of times. Your only mission is to find one phrase, one chunk of language that you can use. Write it down. Say it out loud. That's it. You have begun immersing with intention. The second pillar is the shadow monologue. This is where the real internal rewiring begins. The biggest reason we translate is because our inner voice, the voice inside our head, only speaks our native language. The shadow monologue is the process of teaching that inner voice to speak English. And the best part? It's completely private. There is no pressure, no fear of making mistakes. The concept is simple. You narrate your own life to yourself in English as you live it. You do it silently, in your head. When you are making coffee, your inner monologue isn't in your native language anymore. It is, "Okay, I'm walking to the kitchen now. I'm opening the cabinet. I need a cup. Here is a white cup. I'm taking the coffee. I'm putting it in the machine." It will feel slow and stupid at first. Your vocabulary will be limited, but you are building a direct connection between your thoughts and the English language, with no translator in the middle. You are creating a new neural pathway. I had another student, Carlos. He was an engineer, very logical and terrified of speaking because he hated making mistakes. He was a classic overthinker. The pressure static in his head was at maximum all the time. He started practicing the shadow monologue on his 30-minute commute to work every day. Silently, he would describe the world outside his car window. "I see a blue car. That man is running. He is wearing a red shirt. The building is very tall. I think it will rain today." He never spoke a word out loud, but for 30 minutes every morning, his brain was living in English. After about 2 months, something incredible happened. During a meeting, someone asked him a question, and before he had time to get nervous or translate, the answer just came out. It was a simple sentence, but it was effortless. His brain had used the new pathway he had been building in private. He had trained himself to think in English without the pressure of performance. So, here is your second practical task. For the next 10 minutes after this video ends, I want you to practice the shadow monologue. Whatever you do, washing the dishes, checking your email, walking your dog, narrate it in your head in simple English. Don't worry about perfect grammar. If you don't know a word, just describe it. The goal is not perfection. The goal is connection. And that brings us to the third and final pillar, context over translation. This pillar is the final step to breaking your addiction to the translator. Every time you run to a bilingual dictionary or a translation app for a single word, you are reinforcing the habit of translation. You are telling your brain, "We cannot understand this word without our crutch." We need to take the crutch away. From now on, when you read or listen and you find a new word, your first job is not to translate it. Your first job is to be a detective again. Read the sentence it's in. Read the sentence before it and the sentence after it. Look at the context. Can you make an intelligent guess about what it means? 90% of the time, you can. When you guess the meaning of a word from its context, you create a much richer, stronger memory of it than a simple translation can ever provide. You remember the word as part of a story, an idea, not just an equivalent to a word in your own language. Think of my student, Sophia. She was reading an article online and came across the sentence, "The sudden change in the project plan left the entire team bewildered." She didn't know the word bewildered. Her old habit was to immediately stop and translate it. Instead, she practiced this pillar. She looked at the context. Sudden change in the plan. Left the team. How would a team feel after a sudden change? Probably confused, surprised, a little lost. She guessed that bewildered meant something like very confused. Then, and only then, she looked it up in an English-to-English dictionary, which defined it as to cause someone to become perplexed and confused. Her guess was correct. And because she did the detective work, because she connected it to a situation, she will never forget that word. She owns it now. So, your third practical task is this. The very next time you encounter a new word in English, I forbid you from translating it immediately. I want you to read the full sentence, make a guess about its meaning, and only then check its definition in English. You are training your brain to stay in the English zone, to solve problems using only English. This is one of the most powerful habits you can possibly build. So, we have the three pillars: immersion with intention, the shadow monologue, and context over translation. This was the philosophy, the strategic fusion that I discovered. This is what I used to begin reforging my mind. Let me take you back to one more story. My story. About a year after that humiliating meeting where I froze, another opportunity came. It was an interview for a promotion, a leadership position that required me to lead a team with members from 3 different countries. The final interview was a panel discussion with 2 senior directors from the UK. I walked into that meeting, and I felt something different. I wasn't calm, I was still nervous. But this time, the pressure static was gone. It was just quiet. For the past year, I had lived the 3 pillars. I had narrated my daily life in my head. I had hunted for language chunks in my favorite movies. I had learned to understand new words like a native would. One of the directors asked me a complex question about how I would handle a conflict between team members with different cultural backgrounds. The old me would have panicked. The old me would have started desperately translating. But the new me just listened. And then I answered. The words flowed. Not because I had memorized a script, but because for the first time my thoughts were in English. I talked about empathy, about clear communication, about finding common ground. I used phrases I had picked up from articles and podcasts. It felt natural. It felt like me. I got the promotion. But the real victory wasn't the new job title. The real victory was that feeling of freedom, the feeling of my mind being finally, truly unshackled, the feeling of expressing my true intelligence, my true self, in another language. The moral of this story, the reason I am telling you all of this, is that the chains I wore are the same chains you might be wearing right now. And the key that I found, this strategic fusion of habits, is now in your hands. That feeling of freedom is not just my story. It is waiting for you. The capable, global, confident person you want to be is not in some distant future. They are right there, waiting for you to unlock the door. Your journey starts right now, with the first step I promised you at the beginning of this video. This is your learning loop. Your one practical task is to choose just one of the 3 pillars we discussed today. Just one. And commit to practicing it for the next 7 days. Maybe you'll choose immersion with intention and find one new phrase every day. Or maybe you'll practice the shadow monologue for 5 minutes during your lunch break. Or maybe you'll commit to not translating the next 10 new words you find. Just one. Choose your pillar and write it in the comments below. Declare your commitment. My pillar for this week is... This is how real change happens. Not by learning everything at once, but by taking one small, consistent step forward. If this manifesto resonated with you, if you felt understood today, then subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. In our next video, we are going to build on this foundation, and I will show you how to handle real-time conversations without panicking. You don't want to miss it. Thank you for your time. Your freedom is waiting. Start your first task now.